Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the large window of his ship looking out at the stars. Earth looked beautiful from up here, blue and green and perfect. Today marked 5 years since humans had joined the Galactic Cooperation Council. 5 years of peace, learning, and friendship with alien races that had traveled the stars for thousands of years. The bridge around him buzzed with activity. His crew worked alongside alien officers from different worlds. A tall, gray-skinned Zephyrian stood at the science station, its forearms moving gracefully over the controls. At the weapons console, a rock-like Korthak officer checked the ship's defenses with slow, careful movements. "Sir, incoming message from Earth," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. "The celebration is starting in 2 hours," Jake smiled. 5 years ago, humanity had been alone in the universe. Then the Council ships had appeared in Earth's sky, not as invaders but as teachers. They had come in peace, offering knowledge and friendship to the young human race. Dr. Lisa Park walked onto the bridge carrying a datapad. She looked tired but happy. Lisa had spent the last 5 years studying alien biology and culture. "The medical exchange program is going wonderfully," she told Jake. "The Zephyrians have shared treatments that will help us cure diseases we thought were impossible to beat. And what have we given them in return?" Jake asked. "Our music, our art, our stories," Lisa said with a smile. "They find human creativity fascinating. They say we think in ways they never considered." Commander Ryan Bell joined them at the window. Ryan led the joint military exercises between human and alien forces. "The training with Council troops has been amazing," he said. "They want to learn everything about human tactics. They say we solve problems in unexpected ways." Jake felt proud. When the Council had first arrived, many humans had been afraid. Movies and books had always shown aliens as conquerors or monsters. But these aliens were different. They were old, wise, and peaceful. They had fought wars long ago but had learned to live in harmony. The Council had 12 member races, each more advanced than humans. The crystalline Veltar could process information faster than any computer. The aquatic Merkul understood energy in ways that seemed like magic. The insect-like Zitara could coordinate perfectly as a group mind. "Captain Hayes wants to see you in the briefing room," Ryan said to Jake. Jake walked through the ship's corridors. Human and alien crew members nodded respectfully as he passed. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperation. Human engineering combined with alien technology had created vessels more advanced than either race could build alone. Captain Nicole Hayes waited in the briefing room with several data screens active around her. Nicole was one of the smartest officers Jake knew. She had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. "Sir, I need to show you something," Nicole said, her voice serious. "I've been reviewing our supply reports from the past year." Jake sat down. "What did you find?" "Small things. Numbers that don't quite match up. Resources that go missing for a few days, then reappear in different locations." Nicole pulled up a chart. "Look at this. 3 months ago, we requested medical supplies from the Zephyrians. The shipment arrived, but our sensors showed it was 40% larger than what they reported sending." "Maybe they sent extra supplies as a gift," Jake suggested. "That's what I thought too. But then I found this." She showed him another report. "The Korthak energy modules we received last month. They were supposed to be standard power cells, but our engineers found additional components inside. Components that don't match any known Korthak technology." Jake frowned. "What kind of components?" "That's just it, we don't know. They're made of materials we've never seen before. When our scientists tried to analyze them, the components dissolved." Nicole looked worried. "And there's more. The Council has been asking very specific questions about Earth's population centers, our military bases, our defense networks. They're our allies, Nicole. They probably want to help us improve our defenses. Maybe. But sir, I've noticed that every time we share information about human military tactics, they ask for more details. They want to know about our backup plans, our emergency protocols, our fallback positions." Nicole paused. "It feels less like they're trying to help us and more like they're studying us." Jake considered this. The Council had always been interested in human problem solving. They said humans were unique in the galaxy for their ability to adapt and improvise. But was that interest something more? "Have you shared these concerns with anyone else?" Jake asked. "I tried talking to Commander Bell, but he thinks I'm being paranoid. Dr. Park says cultural misunderstandings are normal when different species work together." Nicole looked frustrated. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I am seeing problems where none exist. Or maybe you're seeing something the rest of us are missing, Jake said. Keep investigating, but be careful. If you're wrong, we don't want to damage our relationship with the Council. If you're right, he didn't finish the sentence. If Nicole was right, humanity might be in more danger than they realized. Later that evening, Jake attended the celebration on Earth. The party was held in New York, with representatives from all Council races. The alien ambassadors gave speeches about friendship and cooperation. Human leaders talked about the bright future ahead. But as Jake watched the crowd, Nicole's words echoed in his mind. He noticed how the alien representatives seemed more interested in talking to human military officers than civilians. How they asked detailed questions about Earth's cities and industries. The hegemony ambassador, a tall creature with silver skin and black eyes, approached Jake. Admiral Morrison, I trust your fleet is ready for next week's joint exercises. Of course, Ambassador. We look forward to learning from your tactical expertise. The ambassador smiled, but the expression looked cold on its alien features. And we look forward to learning from yours. Human creativity in warfare is fascinating. We have much to discuss about your species' potential. The way the ambassador said potential made Jake uncomfortable. It sounded less like a compliment and more like a threat. As the celebration continued into the night, Jake made a decision. Tomorrow he would begin his own quiet investigation. Nicole might be wrong about the Council's intentions, but she might also be right, and if she was right, humanity needed to be prepared for whatever was coming. The stars looked different now as Jake stared up at them through the party venue's glass ceiling. They no longer seemed like friendly beacons of hope. They looked like watching eyes, cold and distant, judging humanity and finding them wanting. 5 years of peace might be coming to an end. The Grand Assembly Hall on the Council's main station was the size of a football stadium. Representatives from all member races sat in curved sections that rose up like an ancient amphitheater. At the center, a massive holographic display showed the Council's symbol, 12 interconnected rings representing unity among the stars. Admiral Jake Morrison led the human delegation down the main walkway. Behind him walked Dr. Lisa Park, Commander Ryan Bell, and 50 other humans who had been chosen to represent their species at this historic ceremony. Today, Earth would formally pledge its permanent commitment to the Council. The alien representatives watched them with interest. Jake had always found it hard to read alien expressions, but today something felt different. The usual friendly nods and gestures seemed forced. The atmosphere felt tense like the moment before a storm. Council Speaker Zix Thera rose from the central platform. The hegemony leader was tall and imposing, with silver skin that seemed to glow under the hall's lights. Its voice carried clearly through the translation systems that converted alien speech into human languages. We gather today to celebrate 5 years of cooperation with species 2847H, known to themselves as human, the speaker began. It has been a time of learning and evaluation. Jake felt a chill at the word evaluation. That wasn't how the invitation had described this ceremony. The trial period has now concluded, Speaker Zix Thera continued. After careful consideration by all 12 council races, we have reached a decision regarding humanity's future. Trial period? Jake looked at Dr. Park, who appeared equally confused. The humans had been told this was a celebration, not a judgment. Species 2847H, you have been found unsuitable for continued existence as an independent civilization. The words hit the human delegation like a physical blow. Several people gasped. Commander Bell started to stand, but Jake grabbed his arm. They needed to hear everything before they reacted. Your species displays dangerous traits, the speaker continued. Unpredictable behavior, excessive creativity, and a disturbing tendency toward violence when threatened. You reproduce too quickly, consume resources inefficiently, and show alarming adaptability to new situations. Captain Nicole Hayes had been right. This wasn't about friendship or cooperation. It had all been a test and humanity had failed. However, the Council is not without mercy, Speaker Zix Thera said. We will not simply exterminate your species. Instead, you will be relocated to designated preservation zones on remote worlds. Your population will be reduced to sustainable levels. Over time, your aggressive tendencies will be bred out, creating a more peaceful version of humanity. The hall erupted in noise as alien representatives began discussing the announcement. Some seemed pleased, others appeared concerned, but none looked surprised. They had all known this was coming. Dr. Park stood up, her voice shaking with anger. This is genocide. You're talking about destroying our civilization. We are talking about preservation, the speaker replied calmly. Left unchecked, your species would become a threat to galactic peace. This decision was made for the good of all. What about the treaties we signed? The friendship agreements? The cooperation accords? Jake demanded. All part of the evaluation process. We needed to understand your capabilities, your weaknesses, your potential for future development. The speaker's black eyes showed no emotion. You have 72 hours to prepare for relocation. Compliance is not optional. The holographic display changed, showing images of the Council fleet surrounding Earth. Thousands of ships from 12 different civilizations hung in space like a metal web around humanity's homeworld. Each ship bristled with weapons that could crack continents. Your fleet will stand down immediately, the speaker announced. Any resistance will result in the complete sterilization of your planet. The choice is simple: submit to relocation or face extinction. Jake felt sick. Everything humans had worked for, everything they had built was about to be destroyed. Worse, they had helped the aliens do it. Every piece of information shared, every joint exercise, every cultural exchange had been used against them. The medical knowledge you gave us, Dr. Park said, realization dawning in her voice. It wasn't to help us cure diseases. It was to weaken our immune systems. Correct. The biological agents were designed to reduce fertility and increase susceptibility to certain conditions. Nothing fatal. We needed you healthy enough to study. The speaker seemed proud of the deception. Commander Bell's face had turned red with rage. The military exercises. You were learning how to defeat us. Your tactical creativity was indeed fascinating. We now understand how to counter every strategy your species might employ. The speaker gestured to the display, which now showed detailed maps of Earth's defenses. Your military bases, your command structures, your emergency protocols, we know them all. The humans sat in stunned silence. They had been completely outmaneuvered. The Council had spent 5 years preparing for this moment while humanity had celebrated their friendship. But then Jake noticed something on the display. In the corner, almost hidden among the fleet positions, was a small indicator showing unknown energy signatures at the edge of Earth's solar system. The readings were massive but didn't match any known Council technology. Captain Hayes leaned close to Jake's ear. Sir, those readings, they're not alien signatures. Jake's heart began to race. Could it be? After all these years of deception, was it possible that humanity had been preparing too? You have 72 hours, Speaker Zixthera repeated. Use them wisely. Contact your government and begin evacuation procedures. Any delay will be seen as an act of rebellion. As the human delegation was escorted from the hall, Jake caught Nicole's eye. She gave him a slight nod. Whatever was happening at the edge of the solar system, she knew about it. The shuttle ride back to Earth was silent. Around them, Council ships moved into attack positions. The aliens weren't taking any chances. If humanity tried to resist, they would be ready. But as they approached Earth, Jake received a coded transmission on an emergency frequency he thought had been discontinued years ago. The message was simple. Lazarus is awake. Jake's hand started shaking. Project Lazarus had been a theoretical program when he was a young officer, so secret that most people thought it was just a rumor. If it was real, if it had been operating all these years, sir? Dr. Park asked. Are you all right? Jake looked around the shuttle at his fellow humans. They looked defeated, hopeless. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what they were supposed to look like. I think we're about to find out what humanity is really capable of when we stop playing nice, Jake said quietly. Outside the shuttle windows, the Council fleet began moving into final position around Earth. But far beyond them, at the very edge of human space, something was stirring in the darkness. The Council thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Lieutenant Commander Gary Stone sat in the Deep Space Monitoring Station on the far side of the moon, watching his screens with growing excitement. The massive energy signatures weren't from unknown aliens or some cosmic phenomenon. They were human. Very human. Control, this is Deep Space Monitor 7, Gary spoke into his headset. I'm reading 48 distinct energy signatures moving in from beyond Pluto. They're using stealth technology I've never seen before, but the engine patterns are definitely ours. Confirmed. Gary? Came the reply from Earth Command. Project Lazarus is going active. Stand by for authentication codes. Gary's hands trembled as he entered the codes he'd memorized years ago but never thought he'd use. Project Lazarus had been whispered about in military circles for decades. Some called it humanity's insurance policy. Others said it was just a paranoid fantasy. Now Gary was watching it become real. Far out in the darkness beyond Pluto, General Patricia Cross stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution. She was 60 years old and had spent the last 30 of those years preparing for this exact moment. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. These weren't regular military personnel. They were volunteers who had given up normal lives to serve in humanity's secret defense force. All ships report ready. General, said Captain Drew Palmer, her second in command. Drew had been born on this ship, part of the first generation of children raised in the Shadow Fleet. He knew no other life than preparing for humanity's darkest hour. Patricia looked at the tactical display showing the Council fleet around Earth. Over 3,000 alien ships, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. Against them, she had 48 vessels that most of humanity didn't even know existed. The odds don't look good, Drew said quietly. The odds never look good when you're fighting for survival, Patricia replied. But the Council made one mistake. They thought they knew everything about us. Dr. Alan Roberts joined them at the tactical station. Alan was the lead scientist for Project Lazarus, the man who had spent decades reverse engineering every piece of alien technology that had ever entered human space. While Earth's government had celebrated Council friendship, Alan had been taking their gifts apart and learning their secrets. General, we've finished the final analysis of Council fleet compositions, Alan said. Each species brings their traditional strengths. Zephyrian ships have superior sensors. Korthak vessels carry the heaviest armor. Veltar craft process information faster than anything we've built. And their weaknesses? Patricia asked. That's the interesting part. Each species is incredibly advanced, but they've specialized. The Zephyrians never developed strong shields because their sensors let them avoid most attacks. The Korthak rely on their armor so much that their ships are slow and predictable. The Veltar process information quickly, but they can't handle unexpected data patterns. Drew smiled grimly. And humans? Humans are generalists. We're not the best at anything specific, but we're decent at everything. More importantly, we're unpredictable. The Council has been studying us for 5 years, but they've only seen our public face. On Earth, the 72-hour deadline was approaching fast. Admiral Jake Morrison received another coded message. Children coming home for dinner. Set the table. He understood. It was time for humanity's secret weapons to reveal themselves. Major Kate Sullivan powered up her fighter in a hidden bay beneath the Arizona desert. Her ship looked like a standard human fighter, but looks were deceiving. The hull contained biological components reverse-engineered from Council medical technology. The weapons combined human kinetic systems with alien energy manipulation. Most importantly, the neural interface allowed her to think and react faster than any alien pilot. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix 1. Kate spoke into her comm. Time to show our guests what real hospitality looks like. Around the world, similar scenes played out. Commander Stone watched his monitors as hidden bases came online across the solar system. Mining stations revealed hidden weapon systems. Cargo ships dropped their disguises and showed their true military nature. Research facilities activated experimental technologies that had been secretly developed for decades. Agent Karen White sat in her office in the United Nations building, looking like any other diplomat. In reality, she was one of hundreds of intelligence operatives who had spent years gathering information on every Council species. While the aliens had been studying humanity, humans had been studying them right back. Control, this is White Dove, she said into a device hidden in her desk. All Council representatives are accounted for. We have complete intelligence packages on their command structures, decision-making processes, and psychological profiles. The Council had made their first major mistake when they assumed humans would react predictably to their ultimatum. They expected panic, desperate negotiations, maybe some hopeless military posturing. They didn't expect calm preparation. General Cross received reports from assets throughout human space. Tony Martinez checked in from his position infiltrating Council supply lines. Rachel King confirmed that human hackers were ready to disrupt alien communications. Chris Morgan reported that cyber warfare systems were standing by. "It's time," Patricia told her crew. "Send the activation signal to all Lazarus assets. Authorization code Sleeping Giant." Across the solar system, thousands of humans received the signal they had waited years to hear. Secret weapons came online. Hidden ships powered up their engines. Sleeper agents revealed their true identities. On Earth, Admiral Morrison's ship received a transmission from an encrypted source. "This is General Cross of the Lazarus Defense Force. We are moving to defensive positions. Please inform Council forces that their 72-hour ultimatum has been received and rejected." The Council fleet around Earth began detecting new energy signatures. Ships that hadn't been there moments before suddenly appeared on their sensors. Weapon systems of unknown design powered up throughout the solar system. The humans weren't surrendering. They were preparing for war. Speaker Zix Thara received urgent reports from fleet commanders. "The humans have hidden assets. Military vessels of unknown capability. Weapon platforms we didn't detect. Intelligence networks we never suspected." "How many ships?" the speaker demanded. "Unknown. They're using stealth technology that's more advanced than anything in our databases. We estimate at least 300 vessels, possibly more." The speaker felt something it hadn't experienced in centuries. Surprise. Humanity was supposed to be a young, naive species. They weren't supposed to be capable of this level of deception and preparation. "Order all fleets to attack positions," the speaker commanded. "If the humans want to resist, they will learn the price of defying the Council." But as the Council ships moved to attack, they faced something they had never encountered before. An enemy that had spent years learning their weaknesses while hiding their own strengths. General Cross smiled as she watched the tactical display. The Council was about to learn why humanity had survived every challenge their dangerous little planet had thrown at them. "All ships, this is General Cross," she announced to the Lazarus fleet. "Time to remind the galaxy why they should have left us alone." The first Council ships entered Earth's atmosphere expecting easy victory. Instead, they met a storm of weapons fire from defense platforms that hadn't existed on their sensor sweeps just hours before. Hidden installations across Earth's surface opened up with hybrid, human-alien weapons that confused enemy targeting systems. Captain Drew Palmer watched from the bridge of the Retribution as his ship led the charge against the Council's outer fleet. The human vessels moved in patterns that made no sense to alien tactical computers. Where Council ships flew in perfect mathematical formations, humans swooped and dived like Earth's fighter pilots had done in ancient wars. "Zephyrian cruiser dead ahead," called out his weapons officer. "They're trying to lock onto us with their sensors." "Execute pattern Delta 7, Drew ordered. The Retribution suddenly spun sideways and dropped, its path looking random and chaotic. The Zephyrian's advanced sensors, designed to track predictable flight patterns, couldn't establish a weapons lock. Meanwhile, human gunners fired their hybrid weapons using instinct and training rather than computer calculations. The Zephyrian cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Major Kate Sullivan led her fighter squadron through the Council fleet like wolves hunting in a pack. Her pilots used neural interfaces that let them share thoughts and reactions instantly. Where alien pilots had to communicate through their ship's computers, humans thought and moved as one living organism. "Phoenix 2, break left," Kate thought, and her wingmen responded before the words even formed. A Korthak fighter's heavy weapons fire missed by inches. "Phoenix leader, I've got 3 Veltar interceptors on my tail," came the mental call from Phoenix 4. "We see them," Kate responded. "Phoenix squadron, execute thunderstorm." The human fighters suddenly scattered in every direction, their movements looking completely random. The Veltar ships, which processed information incredibly fast, tried to track all the targets at once, but human chaos overloaded their systems. While the aliens struggled to make sense of the data, human fighters struck from unexpected angles. 3 more alien ships disappeared in balls of fire. On Earth's surface, Commander Ryan Bell coordinated ground defenses as Council troops tried to establish landing zones. The aliens had studied human military tactics for 5 years, but they had only seen the official strategies shared in joint exercises. "Remember," Ryan told his ground commanders, "everything they know about us came from training sessions. They've never seen us fight when we're angry." Council dropships landed in what their computers said were optimal positions. Instead, they found themselves in carefully prepared kill zones. Human forces hit them with weapons that combined alien technology with human creativity. Improvised explosives used council energy cells as power sources. Defensive barriers incorporated alien materials in ways the original designers never intended. The aliens discovered that every human civilian was a potential threat. Council soldiers trained to fight. Organized military forces found themselves facing shop owners with alien-enhanced hunting rifles and teenagers who had turned video game skills into drone warfare tactics. This is impossible, reported a hegemony ground commander. The humans fight without organization, but somehow they coordinate perfectly. They use weapons we don't recognize and tactics that make no sense. High above the battle, General Patricia Cross directed the space combat from her flagship. The Lazarus fleet had grown as more hidden assets revealed themselves. Mining ships shed their disguises to show military hulls. Research stations deployed experimental weapons. Even some merchant vessels turned out to be armed scouts. "General, we're getting reports from all sectors," said her intelligence officer. "The Council expected to fight 200 human ships. We now have over 400 vessels engaging their forces. And they still don't know the full scope of Project Lazarus," Patricia replied. "Dr. Roberts, what's our status on the special weapons?" Dr. Alan Roberts smiled from his station. "Ready when you are, General. The Council is about to learn what happens when humans stop playing by the rules." The special weapons weren't traditional armaments. They were psychological warfare tools designed specifically for each Council species. Human hackers, led by Rachel King and Chris Morgan, began their assault on alien computer systems. But these weren't simple cyber attacks. Human programmers had spent years learning how each species thought, how their minds processed information. The viruses they unleashed were designed to be confusing rather than destructive. Beltar ships, which relied on fast information processing, suddenly found their computers filled with human music, art, and poetry. The chaotic beauty of human creativity overwhelmed their logical systems. Korthak vessels, built around mathematical precision, received weapons targeting data based on Earth weather patterns, which changed randomly and made no mathematical sense. Zephyrian sensors, designed to see everything clearly, were flooded with human television shows, movies, and sports broadcasts. Their crews tried to process the emotional chaos of human entertainment and found themselves paralyzed by confusion. "Their fleet coordination is breaking down," reported the tactical officer. "Individual ships are still dangerous, but they're not working together anymore." Admiral Jake Morrison coordinated the defense from Earth's surface, but he found himself admiring the aliens even as he fought them. They were brave, skilled, and individually superior to humans in almost every way. But they had made one critical mistake. They had tried to understand humanity using logic. "The problem with studying humans like lab rats," Jake said to Captain Nicole Hayes, "is that we're not lab rats. We're something much more dangerous." Council ships began falling back as human forces pressed their advantage. The aliens had superior technology and more experience. But humans had something the Council couldn't comprehend: the ability to succeed despite terrible odds. Major Sullivan's fighters harassed retreating Council vessels. Her pilots had learned to fight using instinct and emotion rather than tactical doctrine. They made decisions that computer models said were impossible, then made those decisions work through sheer determination. "Phoenix Leader, Council command ship is trying to retreat," reported Phoenix 7. Kate looked at the massive hegemony vessel trying to escape Earth's gravity well. It was 10 times the size of any human ship, armed with weapons that could destroy cities. By any reasonable measure, her small fighters shouldn't even bother attacking it. "Phoenix Squadron, full attack run. Let's show them what unreasonable humans can do." 12 human fighters dove toward the enormous alien warship like ancient Earth pilots attacking an enemy battleship. Council defensive fire filled space around them, but the pilots moved with a combination of skill, luck, and pure stubborn courage that confused the alien targeting systems. They struck the command ship at its weakest points, places human intelligence had identified during years of careful observation. The hegemony vessel, designed to fight other capital ships, couldn't defend against the swarm of small, fast, unpredictable attackers. The command ship's shields failed. Then its engines. Finally, its weapon systems went offline. "This is Speaker Zix Thera," came a transmission from the crippled ship. "We request terms for withdrawal." General Cross received the message on her flagship. Around Earth, hundreds of council ships were retreating or surrendering. The great alien fleet that had seemed invincible just hours before was broken and scattered. "Tell the speaker we'll discuss terms," Patricia said. "But first they're going to learn what humanity does when someone threatens our home." The battle for Earth was over, but the war between humanity and the Council was just beginning. 6 months after the Council's failed attack on Earth, General Patricia Cross stood on the bridge of her flagship UES Defiance, watching 12 different star systems on her tactical display. Operation Thunderbreak was humanity's answer to Betrayal, simultaneous attacks on every Council homeworld. The Retribution Armada had grown from 48 ships to over 800 vessels as hidden shipyards throughout the outer solar system revealed the true scope of Project Lazarus. Humanity had been preparing for this war for 30 years, building ships and training crews in the deepest shadows of space. "General, all task forces report ready," Captain Drew Palmer announced. "Phoenix Group is in position around the Hegemony homeworld. Lightning Group has reached Zephyrian space. Thunder Group is approaching the Korthak system." Patricia nodded. This wasn't about conquest or revenge. This was about making sure the galaxy understood that humanity would never again be underestimated or betrayed. "All task forces, commence Operation Thunderbreak. Show them what humans do when we stop being polite." Around the Hegemony homeworld of Sixtara, Captain Drew Palmer led 50 human ships against the aliens' most heavily defended system. The planet hung in space like a silver jewel, surrounded by defense platforms that had protected it for 1,000 years. "Remember the plan," Drew told his fleet commanders. "We're not here to destroy their world. We're here to prove we could if we wanted to." Human ships moved through the Hegemony defenses using tactics based on Earth's weather patterns. They flowed around obstacles like water, struck like lightning, then vanished like morning mist. The aliens' mathematical defense systems couldn't predict or counter movements based on natural chaos. In the Veltar system, Major Kate Sullivan commanded a different kind of assault. Her expanded fighter wings used swarm intelligence inspired by Earth's insects. Hundreds of small ships moved as one living organism, overwhelming the crystalline aliens' ability to process multiple targets. "The Veltar are trying to coordinate their defense through their group consciousness," Kate reported. "But they think too logically. They can't handle our random attack patterns." Human fighters dove through the alien formations like schools of fish, each pilot connected to the others through neural links but still maintaining individual creativity. The Veltar, who prided themselves on perfect coordination, found their own group mind confused by the humans' chaotic harmony. But the real victory wasn't happening in space. Dr. Alan Roberts had deployed humanity's ultimate weapon, not a device of destruction, but of truth. "Rachel, Chris, are you ready?" Alan asked his cyber warfare team. Rachel King and Chris Morgan sat at their computer stations, surrounded by screens showing alien communication networks across the galaxy. They had spent years learning the languages, codes, and systems of every Council species. "All systems are green," Rachel reported. "We've got access to every major communication network in Council space. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1, Chris announced. Across the galaxy, every screen, communication device, and information system suddenly displayed the same message. It wasn't in one language, but in hundreds, every language spoken by every species in Council space. The message was simple. The truth about the preservation program. Citizens of 12 worlds watched in shock as evidence poured across their screens. The Council hadn't just betrayed humanity, they had done this 17 times before. 17 other species had been preserved for their own good. Their populations reduced, their cultures destroyed, their independence eliminated. The Aquan race had been too emotional. The Corvani had been too aggressive. The Dextar had reproduced too quickly. Each species had been found unsuitable for independent existence and relocated to remote worlds where they lived as prisoners. On the Zephyrian homeworld, crowds gathered in the streets as their government's lies were exposed. The medical knowledge they had shared with humans contained biological weapons. The energy technology given to younger races included hidden control systems. Every act of cooperation had been manipulation. "People of the galaxy," came a voice through the broadcasts. Admiral Jake Morrison spoke from Earth, his words translated into hundreds of languages. "The Council told you that humans were dangerous. They said we were unpredictable and violent. They were right. When someone tries to destroy everything we love, we become very dangerous indeed. The political effects spread faster than any military assault. On Korthak, the rock-like beings who valued honor above all else rose up against their own government when they learned about the deceptions. On Mirkul, the aquatic species flooded their capital cities in protest. But the most dramatic change happened on the council member worlds themselves. Species that had been preserved centuries ago watched the broadcasts and realized they had been lied to. They weren't living in paradise. They were living in prisons. General Cross were receiving surrender requests from 6 council fleets, reported the communications officer on the Defiance. Their crews are refusing to fight for governments they no longer trust. Patricia smiled grimly. Tell them they can surrender to representatives of the New Terran Coalition. We're accepting applications for membership from any species tired of being told how to live. The New Terran Coalition wasn't just humanity's creation. As word of the broadcast spread, other species began reaching out. The 17 preserved races sent secret messages expressing their desire for freedom. Several council member worlds requested assistance in overthrowing their own governments. On Earth, the United Nations building had been transformed into the headquarters of something unprecedented. A galactic alliance based on choice rather than force. Dr. Lisa Park, now Director of Interspecies Relations, worked with alien refugees who had escaped council control. The hegemony is requesting peace negotiations, she reported to the emergency session of world leaders. They're offering to withdraw from human space and pay reparations. What about the other species they've oppressed? Asked President Martinez. That's where it gets interesting. The Zephyrians have overthrown their council representatives and are demanding the release of all preserved species. The Veltar crystal matrix has fragmented into factions, with half supporting the humans. Even some Korthak clans are declaring independence from their council government. The war was ending not with human victory over the council, but with the council's collapse from within. The truth about their crimes had shattered the trust that held their civilization together. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the new coalition headquarters, looking out at construction ships building humanity's first interstellar diplomatic station. The structure combined human architecture with alien technology. But this time, the cooperation was genuine. Captain Nicole Hayes joined him at the window. She had been promoted to admiral after her early warnings about council deception proved accurate. Any regrets? Nicole asked. Jake considered the question. The war had cost lives on both sides. Human cities had been damaged, ships destroyed, people killed. But the alternative had been the slow death of human civilization. No regrets, he said finally. The council made their choice when they decided to treat us like laboratory animals. We just reminded them that some animals bite back. Outside the window, children from dozens of species played together in the station's recreation areas. Human kids played games with young Zephyrians, Korthaks, and even some of the preserved species who had been freed from their prison worlds. Dr. Park watched them with satisfaction. These children would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation meant partnership, not domination. Where diversity was celebrated rather than controlled. Where being different wasn't a death sentence. The council thought humanity was dangerous because we don't fit their patterns, she said to Jake. They were right. We are dangerous. We're dangerous to anyone who thinks they can control the galaxy through fear. The final scene showed the new Geneva station floating in neutral space, its light shining like a beacon among the stars. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its ports, bringing together beings who had never imagined they could be free to choose their own destiny. The Council's betrayal had been intended to eliminate humanity's dangerous unpredictability. Instead, it had unleashed exactly what they feared most, a species that refused to be controlled and had the courage to help others break their chains. Humanity had awakened not just to defend itself, but to transform the galaxy. The age of the Council was over. The age of free choice among the stars had begun.